Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Driving Bottom Line Business Results with Ideation, with Erica Church, Improvement Specialist from the Government of Saskatchewan. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kim Turner, Vice President at Spigit.
Thank you, Hannah. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's discussion. As Hannah mentioned, I'm Kim Turner, and I'm delighted to be hosting Erica Church from the Government of Saskatchewan. Today, Erica will be sharing the blueprint for her organization's ideation success. You will find it interesting how they're turning employee engagement into a driver for organizational results. As the provider of the idea management solution that supports these efforts, it's always exciting for us to see the outcomes that our customers are driving. Before we dive in, a little bit about us. Spigit enables organizations to engage employees to create and manage a pipeline of ideas. These ideas ultimately translate into initiatives that can drive new business strategies, new product development, and operational efficiencies. Spigit enables business leaders to then advance the best ideas and foster a culture of innovation along the way. Spigit's the largest provider of full lifecycle idea management solutions, serving some of the world's foremost and recognizable organizations. Our participation in launching more than 14,000 challenges across many industries and geographies translates not only into a level of expertise that our customers find highly valuable, but also in a vast innovation community which customers like Erica are a part. On that note, I'm delighted to turn it over to Erica. Thank you, Erica.
Thanks, Kim. Connecting my screen.
That's good.
Okay. So welcome, everybody. As Kim said, I work with the Government of Saskatchewan. Specifically, I support the Ministry of Corrections and Policing. So we support correctional facilities, community corrections, which is probations, as well as community safety and well-being within our province. What I'm going to discuss for you today is our innovation program revamp. What we've done to change our innovation program and really get results over the last about 18 months, how we've created a new complete process, the accomplishments we've seen, how it's affected participation and engagement, and what we've got next to continue to move forward. Our old innovation program, our continuous improvement team supporting the province and the Ministry of Corrections and Policing, we have 2 improvement specialists. And really 18 months to 2 years ago, we were really searching for projects and improvements to support. We were knocking on doors saying, please let me help you. And a lot of times we ended up gathering some data to support that old school project management, but we weren't utilized in our entirety to use all our tools to see things right through to implementation. Our innovation program had an email suggestion box. We really had very few ideas submitted. Many weren't related to innovation and continuous improvement. And we also had continuous improvement committees within specific facilities or offices. It as well was an anonymous suggestion box. It didn't allow for any collaboration. Hundreds of ideas came through. Many may have been similar, and many were not relevant or identifying a problem. It was problem identification, not solution focused. So the committee really had to sort through all those ideas. If they had questions, it was anonymous, so they didn't know who to go back to for more information. And it was a really huge time commitment for committee members. It was about a 1 to 2 year time frame before they were moving forward with any improvements. So we examined our innovation program and realized there was a lot of things that we wanted to change. The main thing was that it was really a fractured process. It was problem-based rather than solution-focused. Wasn't strategically aligned. Staff weren't engaged. We struggled with implementation, and if we reached implementation, often the improvement was not sustained. We realized that we had a paradox. Everybody's heard, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, our paradox was what came first, employee engagement or innovation? So we really asked the question, why do we have low staff morale and engagement? Staff weren't involved in projects and continuous improvement. The improvement projects and events were not effectively communicated throughout the organization. They were driven top down. So because staff didn't know what was being worked on, they didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel for things that were a frustration. And why was our innovation program ineffective? Again, staff were not engaged and involved in the improvement work. The improvement work was top-down driven, and because of that, there was no staff buy-in. Without the support and the buy-in from those doing the work, there would be no lasting change. So we realized we couldn't have successful innovation without employee engagement, and we couldn't have positive employee engagement without innovation. When talking to frontline staff, we would hear things like, I've been giving ideas for 20 years and nothing ever happens. Or, someone in the ivory tower takes 5 years to make the perfect plan, but when they give it to us, it doesn't work. Our continuous improvement team in the Ministry of Corrections and Policing have two overarching mandates. We're to increase employee engagement, and we're to drive innovation within our ministry. Being that we can't have one without the other, how would we accomplish this? We set some pretty hefty targets. We knew we needed to walk the talk. No improvement would happen without staff involvement. Engagement would be driven by the commitment to follow through, and the progress of improvement work would need to be communicated throughout the organization. Last fiscal year, in 2017-18, we surpassed or met every target that we set, largely in part to using the innovation pipelines to engage staff. We developed an in-depth innovation program with 7 key stages to create a real, complete, end-to-end process that starts with sponsor commitment and ends with auditing the improvement and replicating when it's successful. We created a program that's totally transparent, engagement driven by the sponsor commitment to follow through. In the front end, we ensured that the sponsors committed to implementing the ideas, that it has strategic or operational alignment, commitment to an implementation path, and it identifies other leaders that should be involved to ensure they have the green light to move forward. We ask them to define their success measures in the front end. What does success look like? Are they saving time, saving money, designing a new program, or eliminating errors? What are the levels of engagement they want to achieve with their staff? What types of ideas are they looking for? And is there budget or time constraints for implementation? We built the problem identification into the challenge planning process. We realized that we could not ask for solutions without first fully identifying the problem. So the sponsor develops a challenge background, which clearly identifies the problem, the reason they want to find a solution, and their commitment to an implementation path. We map the process of challenge planning so that everyone involved knows what to expect, including the roles, meetings, decision points, and communications. We streamlined the process to a series of 3 meetings with the sponsor and delegated challenge team. Each meeting has dedicated decision points to be made. The reason we mapped this process and implemented this was really a result of lessons learned. Our very first challenge that we ran through our Spigit platform, the innovation pipeline, took 3 months to plan. Just working through the process and getting that sponsor and their challenge team to make some decisions in designing that challenge blueprint. Next, we engage the staff using the innovation pipeline. So we crowdsource their ideas to solve the identified problem during a challenge. We've again mapped this process, roles, challenge phases, activities, meetings, and manual and automated communications. These maps have been ever evolving based on those aha moments and lessons learned. An example with this map, we implemented weekly status meetings with the sponsor moderators and experts. We realized that if concerns came up when a challenge was live, it was very difficult to pull executives together at the last minute to make a decision. Step 4, resolution, approval, and planning. So once we have those top ideas that we've pulled from our staff during a challenge, the sponsor and the delegated challenge team will review and vet the top ideas. There are times when we do this kind of like a Shark Tank or Dragon's Den model, where the idea owners can actually present to the sponsor team and get that face-to-face time with the executives. Sponsor and challenge team will approve solutions to move forward to implementation, and they categorize them based on the scope, stakeholders, budget, and timelines to implementation. The categories for those ideas are quick wins, which is a just do it. Those ideas and solutions can be implemented at the local level. They don't require any additional data or analysis, and they can be implemented within 3 months or less. An example of a quick win that we had come through one of our challenges was around scanning and uploading documents to our criminal justice information management system. So probation officers, they would have to scan the paper copy of a warrant, and then they may have a client come in or something along those lines, and then they'd have to go into that scanner file and search through hundreds of files labeled with some random number. And the idea was simply, let's get a scanner with scan-to-email capabilities. So saves time, and as well, if they get busy once they've scanned that document, it's there in their email inbox reminding them to actually upload it. The intermediate ideas, they would involve data collection, measurement, and setting targets, which will be the key aspects of implementation. These are the types of projects and improvement events that my team will support. And then as well, we've got the category of broad strategic. They also involve data and measurements and setting targets, but as key aspects in making the case for a budget submission or a policy or legislation change. And the timelines on those broad strategic types of ideas can be quite lengthy just because of the process in government. With the budget submission, your requests need to be in October, and you find out for the start of the following fiscal year, April 1st, if you've been given the money you've asked for. So you can imagine if that idea is submitted in November, it can be quite a long process because we couldn't even submit the budget request until the following October. The one thing that we have involved in all 3 categories is that the idea owner or team is always involved in the implementation process. And we do quarterly updates throughout the entire organization regarding progress of the solutions as they move towards implementation. After a solution has been implemented, it doesn't end there. We continue to audit the improvements every 30 days. We use the Plan, Do, Check, Adjust, or PDCA cycle until the changes are functioning as envisioned and meeting targets. This is why the base management measures and that data collection on the front end setting targets is so important. Once an improvement has been sustained and meeting targets for 90 consecutive days, we start to look at replicating to other areas. Why don't we roll out to the entire organization from day one? So as an organization, we test in one area and audit the process there so that we can tweak it, we can work out any bugs first and ensure that it's meeting targets, and then we'll ensure a standard process throughout the organization when we replicate it further. What accomplishments have we seen with the innovation pipeline, which is our Spigit platform? So one of the challenges that we ran was the Getting Psyched challenge. We know that a significant amount of offenders in our system have mental illness. So the focus of the challenge was to find ways to connect the clients on probation with the help and support they needed while they were under our supervision. Big picture, we're looking at reducing recidivism. If people with mental illness can get the help they need, they will not end up back in our system as a result of their illness, not criminal tendencies. An improvement event was held with LaRange and Creighton Community Corrections in the northern part of our province to develop a mental health resource directory, so all staff would know where they could refer their clients for help. In that original improvement event, with those two offices, we eliminated 135 errors. That would include any information that was missing. We would count that as an error. We heard from staff during that improvement event that many times they would refer a client to a program or a group session for support with their mental illness, and the client would report back to their probation officer in 2 weeks and say, well, I went, but there was nobody there because the program didn't exist anymore. It was wrong information that they were giving to their clients. In addition, they might refer their client to a mental health professional, and they'd fax that referral form and never hear anything back. So, and they didn't know, is that even the right fax number? Is there have they been accepted? So as well, improving that process of ensuring that those referrals do get acknowledged when they're received. This process was audited at 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. It was functioning very effectively, and it actually started being replicated earlier this month to all the other community corrections offices in the north region of our province, with 5 other offices. The second replication event, we eliminated 325 errors. And if you think all those errors, 135 from the first 2 offices, 325 from the next 5, every time there's a resource error that you find out the information is wrong, or you're looking for a specific type of program and you have to research that information. We did time observations on this, and that average time is 3 minutes and 7 seconds. How they were originally functioning is each probation officer kind of had their own paper copy that they'd scratch out or write in new information. And with this new process, it's all stored on a common drive. When one person finds new information, they add it to that common drive where everyone can access it. And the amount of time saved is huge when you multiply that by many probation officers not having to do that rework of finding the information. I talked about that we had continuous improvement committees in our old program. So we revamped those committees now. So instead of that anonymous suggestion box, they use the innovation pipeline. We launched 3 new CICs last year with Regina, North Battleford, and Yorkton. And we ended up with, out of the 3 CIC challenges, 10 quick wins, 5 intermediate, and 4 broad strategic ideas. Some examples of improvements my team is supporting. We've got conditional sentence orders and the violation calculations. Goal there, we're eliminating errors, saving time, and we're creating some dedicated experts to manage those conditional sentence orders. Intake scheduling within community corrections. We're looking at decreasing the time first reporting when offender is first sentenced to probation from the court to the time they first saw a probation officer. It was around 13 days. And the work we're doing, our goal is to decrease that to 5 business days, and also to eliminate offenders seeing multiple probation officers, that when they report, their probation officer is there and is available to see them. Currently, we have it down to about 7 business days, and we're going through our next round of improvement shortly. The third one is process guides, and we're doing this work, we're starting at North Battleford with that one. So they want to create a work standard for processes that are not done on a regular basis. So that easy reference for new staff or staff returning from leave or somebody covering another position. It'll save time asking for or giving assistance, eliminate errors, and provide better service for their clients. Accomplishments with T.I.P, the Better Connections Challenge. We asked the question, how can we ensure that the parents we serve are connected to the services they require across ministries? This challenge was co-sponsored by our ministry, Corrections and Policing, as well as Social Services and Economy. The focus there is serving the common client, and we had 10 ideas graduate to the finalist stage. The reason this challenge was truly an aha moment was that every top 10 idea was something that was already being worked on top down. The innovation work was not being communicated to that front line. It was like it was top secret. So what we did was, going forward, we pulled those idea owners into those projects that were already in the works to participate with the ones that aligned with their ideas. The most recent one that we did was the Community Corrections Workload Review. Our probation officers province-wide really have been drowning. Their caseloads continue to increase as other improvement work looks to reduce the remand rates and reduce the population within our correctional facilities. Some of our probation officers are holding caseloads of 80 client files. And, even if you look at, an average, reporting to their probation officer of every 2 weeks, that leaves no time for those probation officers to do any, case management, risk assessments, and other paperwork portions of their jobs. So after being reviewed and vetted by the sponsor team, 16 of those finalist ideas were grouped into 3 quick wins and 3 improvement events. The quick wins are already moving forward, and the first of those improvement events, supervision standards, is to take place next month. Another great thing about our program revamp is our new structured program also lets us pull previously identified ideas into the appropriate stage to ensure follow-through. This idea was actually identified in 2015 after we had a youth overdose in custody at Kilburn Hall Youth Centre. So once we pulled it from the archives, we plugged it into that resolution, approval, and planning stage. We gained sponsor approval to move forward with an improvement event, and we planned for the event and implementation. Our team worked with frontline staff at Kilburn Hall to map and recommend improvements to eliminate potential errors in 8 processes and create standard work. When identifying potential errors, think of that Swiss cheese model. Not every error will result in a defect, but when all of those multiple errors in successive processes and checkpoints line up, the outcome can be truly disastrous. Implementation of recommendations could eliminate 51 potential errors. The team focused on 8 different processes during the course of the improvement event. And presently, all of the recommendations have been implemented and are going through that audit process. One example of a process that they improved was the mail process. So the original process, mail was given to the youth in custody. For legal reasons, with mail, staff can't read their mail. They can only visually scan it for abnormalities. One of the things that is done, and we refer to it as flail mail, mail can be soaked in substances, and then the paper is eaten or chewed by the person in custody to ingest the drug. So they created a new process. Mail is no longer given to the youth. Staff still do not read the mail, but they photocopy it, and the youth is given the photocopy. That original is filed, and the youth can decide when they're released for custody if they would like their original mail or not. If the youth requests the original while they're still in custody, for example, it's a family picture or something like that, it would be swabbed and tested before it's given to the youth. This project also resulted in 2 additional processes involving the courts. Goal to increase video court usage so youth don't have to go out to court, and then when they do go out to court, decreasing the time spent and the contact with others in cells where they could be having handoffs of contraband items. Participation and engagement. So one of our mandates is increasing that employee engagement. 100% of the feedback that we have received from those participating in challenges has been positive. We were lucky enough that shortly after we first started using the innovation pipeline, we had our employee engagement and corporate culture survey issued. So it was a great baseline for us. After starting to use the innovation pipeline, our employee engagement index increased by 13%. The user groups that had already participated in TIP challenges had the highest percentage of survey responses. And the area where we held our first improvement event that resulted from TIP had an employee engagement index 10% above our ministry average. This before and after comparison, these 2 challenges were run with the exact same user group. They were both community corrections province-wide. The difference in the participation levels was huge, and the difference in the percentage of users actively participating was mind-blowing. In that challenge 1 that we launched when we first started the innovation pipeline, 10.5% of users actively participated. In that 8th challenge, about 13 months later, 58% of users actively participated in the challenge by submitting ideas and collaborating with others. This is largely due to the fact that we committed to that follow-through and communicated the improvement work that was being done with those progress reports. Once our staff started to realize that we truly were listening, and even if it wasn't their idea, that something was going to happen coming out of those challenges, we saw our participation rates drastically increase. What's next for our innovation program? So replication and expansion. Our original contract was only 1,000 user licenses for just our ministry, corrections and policing. And as we piloted, built the innovation program, and really communicated our accomplishments, we're now replicating the innovation program that we developed within our ministry province-wide throughout the Government of Saskatchewan. Our goal this year is an additional 7,500 user licenses by the end of fiscal year 2018-19. We currently are using 3,500 user licenses, and we have brought 3 other ministries on board at this point: Ministry of Advanced Education, Ministry of Justice Attorney General, which is the courts, and the Ministry of Highways and Infrastructure. Ministry of Social Services will be coming on board within the next month or 2 as well. So our new innovation program, what does it look like? So we still have 2 improvement specialists on our team, but we have our calendar booked with improvement projects and events months in advance. We're no longer looking for improvement to support. And we are supporting those innovations from start to finish and seeing it right through to implementation, audits, and replication. We got rid of that email suggestion box and we implemented the innovation pipeline. We have now run 12 challenges. We've had about 200 individual ideas submitted. 64 ideas have approved to move forward. 36 have been implemented and 28 are ongoing. The continuous improvement committees, as I said, we revamped those. So the committee now plans the challenge, moderates the challenge. It allows for collaboration. It takes many ideas down to the best few, and then that committee reviews and plans for implementation. So it's gone from a 1 to 2 year process down to about a 12-week process where they're planning to implement improvements. So our new innovation program, it's no longer a fractured process. Our staff are engaged and they're excited to come to work again. Our in-depth communication plan keeps the entire organization informed of the progress, and improvements are not only sustained, they're being replicated to other areas. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Erica. While if you have a question and you would like to enter it into the chat box, you can do that now. And while the questions are coming in, I do have 1 or 2 follow-up questions based on your presentation. When you opened your presentation, you talked about the chicken and egg situation between innovation and employee engagement. And there are a couple of things that you talked about related to your process that I wonder how they've impacted employee engagement. Specifically, do you have feedback from your employees in terms of what impact it had on them when you started to share the list of winning ideas, if you will, or make more transparent the winning ideas?
Absolutely. As we go out to do the improvement projects and events, the feedback we get from staff is phenomenal. They like the way we're now approaching innovation, and that we've kind of flipped that hierarchical structure upside down. And everything we do is driven by the people who do the work and are immersed in our processes and our programs.
And to have oh, go ahead.
To have successful innovation, really there's no other way to accomplish it. If they don't believe in the change, they're not going to support it, and no improvement will be sustained without that frontline buy-in.
Right, and when you look at the level of engagement that you're seeing, have you seen a change since you started making transparent the winning ideas, or since you implemented your events as a part of your process?
Absolutely, we have, and actually, one of the next steps going forward, in order to continually measure that, our employee engagement and corporate culture survey, it goes out every 2 years, but really that employee engagement index is based on 5 questions. So we're going to start kind of pre and post challenge or pre and post improvement events, issuing just those 5 questions in a survey to as well measure the change it makes when innovation actually comes to their workplace, and how the way they feel about innovation and engagement improves.
Wonderful. And you also mentioned that at the end of your presentation that you're seeing a change since you've implemented the changes, or since you've implemented the innovation pipeline. You're seeing an increase in the number of sponsors, challenges, or seeing an increase in your challenge pipeline. What actions specifically do you think made the difference or made that shift to increasing your challenge pipeline?
Basically, it was just the fact the communication plan was huge. Our province is geographically very large, so what's happening in one end of the province, other people wouldn't know about. So when we're continually communicating the improvement work that's happening and the progress of those ideas as they move towards implementation, an office like La Ronge is 600-700 kilometers from Swift Current, and that Swift Current office knows, yes, this is a frustration for me, but they're working on it and it will be coming here soon. It gives them the light at the end of the tunnel, instead of just that feeling of hopelessness and that they're stuck with what they've got.
And is that transparency normally handled through the platform itself or through other means of communication?
A combination of. Actually, as we move forward with the innovation pipeline, we are starting to use it more for that follow-on communication. But we do quarterly updates throughout the organization via WebEx and email communications, as well as to the improvement work that's being done and where it's going from there.
You mentioned also that you involve the idea center in the process for those ideas that are selected. Has that
Sorry, I missed the last part of that, Kim.
Oh, you mentioned that you involve the idea submitter in the implementation of any selected idea. Has that participation in implementation changed the level of engagement in challenges? Have you seen a change in behavior of employees who have participated in implementation after they've done that?
Absolutely, absolutely, we have. The other thing that does is it's really that rewards and recognition piece, to recognize them and involve them in improvement work and project teams is something that normally wouldn't be a part of their job as a probation officer or a correctional officer in a jail. So it really is that recognition piece as well. The other thing that our executive team is really using the innovation pipeline is kind of more of a byproduct of the program, is they're identifying those future leaders that have have the mindset they want with regards to innovation and change and moving forward. There was one gal who was a newly appointed supervisor in September, October 2016 with our first challenge. Her idea wasn't even the idea that was picked as a winner to move forward, but she was collaborating on almost every single idea in there. She was providing those idea owners with more information, jurisdictional scan stuff, uploading attachments for them. And we're looking at now, 18 months later, she moved to acting director of operations, and now she is the director for all of the North region for community corrections within 18 months. Because of her involvement and how the executive team recognized her abilities from her participation in the innovation pipeline.
That's a really great story about the impact it can have on employees that participate. One final question for you. What advice do you have related to engaging employees for organizations that are just getting started to launch a crowdsourced innovation program?
The biggest thing, if you take nothing else away from this, is the commitment on the front end to follow through. The worst thing you could do to kill employee engagement is to run a TIP challenge and not have anything move forward to implementation. And that's really what we did right from the start with the innovation pipeline, with that sponsor commitment, is that commitment on the front end that you will follow through on whatever comes out of this. Even with our aha moment on that, multi-ministry Better Connections challenge, all 10 of the top ideas, there was already being work done that aligned with their ideas. But communicating that follow through and then pulling those idea owners into that work for feedback or participating on the project teams. If we wouldn't have done that, it would have sent our program backwards.
That's a really important point, and it seems like that is also an important reason to have those quick wins so that you can start to show that progress right away, show movement right away, commitment, ongoing commitment to the employees who are in.
Absolutely, and we've had challenges where, one challenge, we end up with not just a winner, but 8. Because, those top 3, we can do all of those. But then, number 10 and number 8 and number 6, and they're all quick wins. We might as well just do those too. So our sponsors have been very pleased. And it took a little bit of time for them to believe in the process and believe in their staff. But the level of improvement we've seen and the quality of those solutions has really changed their thinking over the last 18 months.
Well, that's great advice for our listeners. Really appreciate, Erica, your time today and your willingness to share your experience and your process and your successes. And to our audience, thank you for joining us for today's discussion. And as Hannah mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, a link to the recording will go out to all attendees in the next couple of days. So thank you all and have a great day.